Okay, this is Matt with Mystical Mountains coming to you live from within my garage slash gear room. And this is going to be a first video in a series of trapping. So we'll call this Trapping 101. And this video is going to cover how to trap, where to trap, what to look for, trap placement. See if I can get out of this lot, but I don't think it's going to happen, so whatever. I want to tell you when I do my traps, how I do them. Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to light my smoke because it's going to take a while. And I hope you're having a great day so far. Anyway, let's get to it. There's four, no matter what type of trap it is, whether it's modern, primitive, spring, coil, snare, whatever, you have four types. You have mangle, tangle, dangle, and strangle. Okay, we're going to cover those. Mangles are your deadfalls. No matter, you're dropping weight, you're crushing, whether you use a Paiute deadfall, a figure four deadfall, it's still it's a deadfall. You're dropping weight on something and killing it, hopefully. You have tangle. A tangle would be a net. That's the easiest way to put it. A bird trap. You're basically enclosing something so it can't get out, or you're tangling it up so it can't get out. Dangle would be a powered snare. It could be a net. It's something that lifts the animal off the ground, because as soon as the animal is lifted off the ground, it can't go anywhere. In fact, one of my favorite style traps is a dangle. It's a snare with a springboard. It's a powered snare. Then you have strangle. A strangle is a snare that would slip over the animal's neck and strangle it. Okay, so that's your four tops. You go back over four tops is mangle, dangle, tangle, and strangle. That's it. Now, once you know this, let's look at where I would put those traps. What I look at. Okay, in my area, we have mountains, we have different biodomes, if you will. But basically, you have peaks, shelves, and valleys. Okay, I'm going to draw that out for you because just in case you don't get that. Okay, so you have a peak, you have a shelves, and valleys. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Let's see if you can, so you have your peak, which is the top of the mountains, you have your shelves, and then you have your valleys. Any place that's between there that is, say, a logging road or a trail or a game trail, I call a cut or a draw. Okay, so you have to look at, humans, we're not very smart when it comes to the outdoors. We go out and climb sheer mountain faces for fun. An animal's not going to do that. You have Mr. Rabbit comes hopping along. He's got a 6 foot, say, drop off. He's not going to climb down that drop off, and he's not going to try to climb up it. He's going to conserve his calories and go around it. He's going to keep traveling until he can go around whatever it is that is an obstacle. Okay, so peaks. Not a lot of animals in my area stay on peaks. So, trapping them can be hit or miss. Shelves and valleys, and especially cuts or draws is where it's buttered for me. So once I pick an area, say I'm going along, I come across a logging road, I come across a valley, I'm going to start looking for signs. Okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go through them. I'm going to look for refuse, rubbish, remains, prints, arboreal or ground sign, trails, and scat. Okay? And what that's going to do is that's going to paint a picture to me of what's there, if anything, what it's eating, what's eating the animals, how many there are, and where they're going. Okay? So let's start with the first one, refuse. Refuse is basically anything that's been eating onto me that the animal left behind, as in, say I'm trapping some coons. I'm going to look for, say, oyster shells, snail shells, stuff that they didn't completely eating. So that's refuse. That's maybe a bit of hair, Rubbish. Rubbish is basically what they've left behind, as in they finish eating the refuse and there's a big pile of shells there. There's a big pile of nuts there. That's going to tell me, hey, I have, herbalistic animals here. I have coons here. Depends on how they're eating. Remains. I want to see what the predators are eating, because if there's enough prey to support a predator population, then I'm not going to go after the predators. I'm going after the prey also. So if I come across, say, some coon bones or bobcats, then that's what I'm going to be looking for. It's what I'm going to be setting my traps for. Prints. Now in the fall time, in winter, we have about 2 feet of leaves on that. So if you can find a track on that, I'm impressed. But prints could also be a trail, a game trail that was going on. It could also be tree rubbing. And it sometimes can be a print. If you're down in a valley around a creek, you can get a muskrat print. Signs is everything put together. It's the refuse, the rubbish, the remains. It's a animal trail, a game trail. But the big important one is scat. I'm going to find a piece of poo, and I'm going to take a stick and I'm going to dig through that shit, literally. Because I want to know what they're eating. Because if my bait is not what they're eating, then chances are I'm not going to trap them. Okay? So I'm going to dig through it. Now, let's talk about where to trap. Well, you have bedding areas, feeding areas, and watering areas. Okay? You don't want to trap any of those. Because if I put a trap in your bedroom and you walk into your bedroom, you're going to be like, hey, something's different. There's a 500 coil spring trap on my bed. You're going to notice that. If you're in your feeding areas, if you ever watch the way an animal eats, they'll take a bite and look around. Take a bite and look around. They're always on guard. Same way with watering areas. Watering areas is a variable, though, and we'll get into that. But I'm not going to trap the bedding areas. I'm not going to trap the feeding areas. Watering areas is hit or miss. Where I am going to trap is the trails leading to each area. Because when are you least paying attention? You're least paying attention when you're beat bopping through the woods. And you might, they might be beat bopping through the woods. Hey, there's a quick snack. That's when I have them. I don't have them when they go back to their bedding areas and something's different, it smells different, it's out of place, something's not the way they left it. Feeding areas, they're on guard. They're always paying attention. If you go into a feeding area, they're going to know, hey, somebody's been through here. Now, watering areas, like I said, that's a variable. But that leads us to bait. That's why I'm digging through their scat. Okay. I have to make my bait more attractive than any other food in the area. So if I'm in an oak grove and there's 50 oaks and acorns all over the place, and what I have is acorns, I got to get that animal to go from, say, 2 acres of feed to step on a plate that big. So I need my acorns to smell more acorny, if that's a word. So I'm going to bust them up. I'm going to take those acorns and I'm going to crack them and bust them up, especially if that's what I'm using peanut butter as a way. As long as I can bait my trap and make my trap smell more enticing than any other food around, then that's what I'm going for, no matter how I bait it. One of my, for my leg hold traps for coyotes, the best bait I've came across is sardines. When I'm setting my trap, and I have my trap lay down, and I have it all covered up and stuff. But the way I do my sardines is I'll crack that can. I'll just crack it. I don't open it all the way. I just crack it. And as those sardines rot, it attracts more coyotes. Don't know why, but it does. So that's a tip there for you. Snares. Snares work great because they're a blind set. You can either have them as what we call a baited set or a blind set. A baited set is like I was describing before. I'm going to have bait there to entice them. A blind set is a snare or a leg hold trap that I put in a runway that I call, which is a trail, I say a game trail. And it's just luck of the draw. I'm hoping that I can catch that animal unaware, whether it's a dangle, a mangle, strangler, tangle. So, your baited sets is when you're drawing the animal. Just to recap, your blind sets is when you're doing something to get the animal on its way. And we're going to cover all this stuff in future videos. Now, let's look at why I prefer a powered snare. Because when I do a snare, and the stuff that you should be trapping, your snare should be no higher than 4 fingers. You don't want to catch a cougar or a mountain lion or a deer. I've seen people, I want to trap deer. What's a big problem with that? You got a deer in a trap and he's pissed off. That's the problem. Or a cougar or a mountain lion. And that's a lot of meat that you're going to be having to eat before it goes bad. Okay, so we want to go after the prey, or the prey animals, the rabbits, the hares, the squirrels, stuff along those lines. But here's a good time to talk about ethics and trapping. Whatever it is you trap, you eat. If I set a trap, and this has happened before, if I set a trap and got a possum in it, guess what I'm eating that night? You do the animal the respect that it deserves. Trapping works because it works when you're not there. Okay? And whatever life you take, you honor that animal. Okay? Now that that's out of the way. On your powered snare, the best thing that I like about it is it lifts the animal off the ground. Because if I have a rabbit and a snare on the ground, I can guarantee you when I check it in the morning, that rabbit's not going to be there. Maybe a head or torso or some fur is going to be there. But coyotes will have that rabbit before I get there. If it's off the ground, it won't. For the most part. Also, trapping, and this is just a sideways thing, trapping is a numbers game. So that's why if I'm doing a deadfall, my favorite is a Paiute deadfall. Okay, in about 30 minutes time sitting around the campfire, I can make 20. So you want numbers. No one's ever came along after looking for a guy and been like, yeah, that sumbitch died from hunger, but he did good on that figure 4 deadfall. No. As long as it works. There's no set rules to how traps should work as long as You catch the animal, contain the animal, whether in a snare, a net, deadfall, whatever, and then you eat the animal. By the way, when I make a snare, which we'll cover into different videos step by step, my preferred is picture wire. Like you go to Home Depot and you get the picture hanging wire, you want it annealed, and you don't want to use regular, something that they can chew through if you have no other choice. Okay? And I don't know if you've ever seen an animal in a trap, but it's not just pulled out and stayed tight. That animal's jerking on that son of a bitch trying to get loose. Another reason, powered snare, it's off the ground. Even if you get it by one leg, it can't pull against that, and try to break it. That's why you want a nailed wire. And like I said, picture frame wire, picture wire at Home Depot. Also, if you have to use cordage, use bank line. Catfish and bank line from Canteen Shop. I'm not affiliated with them, but if you use paracord or dental floss or whatever else they tell you, it turns to shit real quick. It doesn't hold its form around the snare, and tarred bank line, because it's made with asphalt, 100% better. Now, picture wire is 100% better than that. Okay, so I hope that this was a good start for you. We're going to cover in this series everything. We're going to cover techniques, how to plant a trap line. We're going to cover different traps, from leg holes to snares to underwater traps. We're going to cover fishing traps. So if you have any questions, I'm going to give you some time to come back to tell me whatever it is you want to tell me or to ask. After that, then you can comment down below. So here's your time to tell me or ask me anything you want. Okay, I am not seeing any comments or anything along those lines. So, somebody just popped on. I'm going to give them the same opportunity. Now's the time to ask me questions or tell me anything. And if you don't do it now, you can comment below. So here's your time. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So you have a great night. Stay safe out there. Stay safe during the pandemic. I love you.